Hello. Hi. I'm so sorry. I really don't want to bother you, but I'm a little bit lost. Yeah, I I just don't know where I am and I'm having a little bit of trouble walking. Yeah, look, this is gonna sound crazy, but I came from over there. Yes. No, I know there's nothing but ocean over there. I came from the ocean. We don't call it that. We call it Merlandia, but I'm so sorry. No, I'm just really confused right now. Um, okay. It's a long story, but I'll tell it to you if it'll make you help me. I just need somewhere to stay. Thank you so much. Yes, no, I promise it's all true. Look, this morning, I was having tea with my sisters. We're all sea princesses, as you can see by the crown. And I heard something through the water. A voice, a sound of some sort. So I looked at my beautiful seam shell. And I asked it to show me who was speaking. And right here, this is where it shows you, but you don't have any magic, so you can't see. But it showed me a little girl. A very young girl, and I knew she was human because I've seen humans. I've gone up to the service before. And she looked to be afraid. Deeply afraid of something, and I couldn't tell what it was, but I knew in my heart of hearts that I had to help her. So I immediately threw down my tea and I told my sisters that we needed to go. And they asked me what was wrong with me. And I told them what I had seen. They asked that I show them my seeing shell, and unfortunately, because the vision was only bestowed upon me, they were unable to see it. Everybody thought I was crazy, even my starfish friend. I do love my starfish friend, but he can be a little bit judgmental. It's just very unfortunate because I know if all of us banded together, we could help this little girl in no time. Regardless, I left my dear starfish friend in the cove and I set off to follow this voice. And I used my hearing shell to help me with that. I just put it up to my ear and it helps me hear things more acutely. I got all of these treasures from my late father, King of the Ocean. My mother, the queen, is fairly preoccupied with all of the politics of the sea and trying to keep different peoples together and stave off war, so she doesn't really pay attention to us much, but at least I have my sisters. I am the youngest, which can be difficult sometimes. Nobody really takes me seriously, but I suppose that's just how it goes. Well, I used my hearing shell, and it took me to the westernmost reaches of our fragment of the sea. So we call the sea Merlandia, but our fragment is Mira. And I went all the way to the boundary where the water glows in a lovely spiral, and you can see beyond it deeper reaches of the ocean, deeper and darker. And I knew from my hearing shell that this girl was beyond the boundary, and I had never gone beyond the boundary, I swear. This was terrifying for me. It took a great deal of courage. But I mustered my bravery and I took a deep breath. I steeled myself for whatever was to come. And I swam through this portal. And immediately the current snatched me up. It took me away. And I was so scared. And I didn't even have my starfish friend to help me. My dearest friend. I felt so alone, and I was being tumbled, and I could hardly catch my breath. I was breathing so heavily, I was so scared. My heart was beating out of my chest. Just remembering it and getting all worked up, but the current took me someplace I would never want anybody to go, not even my worst enemy. And believe me, I do have a couple in Mira. Some really mean mermaids. But it was horror. It was sharp and dark, and the pressure was so strong. There were all manner of creatures flitting through the water, approaching me, and they were so menacing and intimidating. It was very difficult to stay strong, in a sense. My memory is so foggy because everything was happening all at once. Immediately, a very large anglerfish came up to me and snapped at me, and I had to stay strong, and I asked him what his voice was. And I even showed him the hearing shell in the hopes that it would reveal its message to him. And to his credit, he was receptive. He put it to his ear. And I don't know what this told him, but it was something horrible, because next thing I knew, I woke up in a dark cave. And when I poked my head out of the opening, all I could see were sharks. Now, I have many shark friends, but this was different. They had been trained. They were highly lethal weapons, which I hate to say because sharks are individuals and they have lovely souls. But when I looked into their eyes, I saw no soul. I saw no soul there. Now, this is when I heard the voice again, and it was much louder this time. It was almost as loud as I could hear with my hearing shell, but the shell wasn't to my ear, so I knew the girl was close. She was quite close. So I decided I needed some way to get out of this predicament. So I used another tool that my late father gave me, bless his soul. I used this. This is a spiral wand, and it's likely my most prized possession. I always keep it close. And somehow, all my thoughts, all of my logic, all of my memory just flew from my mind in that moment, and all I could do was grab this from my saddlebag and hold it aloft. And the sharks were coming at me. They had noticed me. They were going to kill me. And somehow, something from my heart emanated, and a spell rippled out from my spiral wand. And the sharks stopped. They looked at me, they looked at each other, and suddenly I could see their souls again. Their souls had reappeared. It was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Such beauty in such a dark place. It was wonderful. They spoke to me, they told me how sorry they were for scaring me so, and offered to help me find the girl because they were concerned for her as well. So I swam with them. They acted as a sort of entourage because there were more anglerfish that were not very nice. Well, eventually, where the voice was loudest was a locked coral door. And the leader shark said that he thought he had something that could help. He gave me this key. This beautiful key. Pinkish, whitish. A twirl here, a twirl there. It's beautiful. But he said, this key will open any coral door in Merlandia, but we cannot fit inside. It will have to be you who goes in and you alone. So I took a deep breath and I said, I will do what I came here to do. My fate was sealed as soon as I left that tea party with my sisters, because from that moment onward, I knew that I had to get this done or die trying. It was a mission. It was a calling. And I've never felt that before, and it felt so intoxicating. Knowing that your life could be worth something more if you could help somebody. It was incredible, I tell you, incredible. So I swam forward, unlocked the coral door, and I went inside. Now, it was lit by bioluminescent algae. It was beautiful, but beautiful in a haunting way, a dark way. And as soon as I got in, I found this lovely shell. Iridescent, mother of pearl. And I picked it up and I realized this beautiful thing can be in this haunting corridor of dead light and darkness and fear, where a child's voice is screaming for help. And I can hold it with me and it will give me protection. So I did. And in doing so, I do believe I imbued it with some kind of power. Some kind of mystic, magical power. Because I had put my trust in it. And I think I grew a bond with it because of that. One day I may put it on my necklace. Walked a little bit further in and I found this beauty. A cousin to the previous shell I had found, and I imbued it with the same sense of power, and within myself I felt my strength begin to grow. I felt my soul reinforced by the beauty of such lovely natural items. So I grasped this in my hand as well, and I went forward, and I felt my courage growing even as I walked closer to the danger, closer to the poor child, and my heart reached out more to her. I felt stronger. I felt less afraid. It was a wonderful feeling, and I hope to feel it again. This is why I'm so uncomfortable being lost here on land, but that's beside the point. I turned a corner, and I saw her. She was in the middle of this wide circular stone altar of sorts, and we had gone up, and so there was oxygen here, air, and so I switched to my other breathing mechanism. She was lying there, she was crying, she was whimpering, she was obviously deeply terrified, and I rushed to her immediately, which was a mistake, I might add, because I'm not good on my feet, I must confess. I stumbled immediately, and I fell flat on my face. My shells went flying. My hearing shell clattered across the stone floor, and my seeing shell, why, I know it almost shattered. I have to be very careful with it now. So there I was, sprawled out on the floor, prone, and this dear little girl was lying there. She looked shocked to see somebody. At first she was afraid, but then she may have realized that I looked friendly, but then I fell, and so the one person who could have offered some strength was as I said, completely prone. And I think at that moment we both looked at each other and we had a shared sense of despair. My hope from earlier left me, and I was sure that we were both going to be at least seriously harmed in some way, whether spiritual or other. Because I could feel, with my intuition, with my skin, I could feel something bad. You know? If there is a demarcation between good and evil in this universe, I felt the evil side. And I glanced around this cave, lit by all this algae, and the girl's face was this ghostly blue color because the light was shining on her, and she had huge eyes, and she was just terrified. And so I crawled up to her, I grabbed her hand, I hugged her, I said, "It's going to be okay," even though I did not believe this, and I think she knew that I didn't believe it. But I said it anyway, and she immediately curled up into me. She was hoping for some sense of comfort. It was rather heartbreaking to see. And all of a sudden, the lights went out. Everything was dark, and it felt as though a breath had been stolen from this chamber. A breath of whatever hope we had in each other. A breath of life, a breath of love, a breath of camaraderie, of courage. If I had thought that we were despairing before, this was completely different. This was a much deeper level of that. And we were so scared we couldn't even make a noise. I was looking around, I couldn't see this girl, but I could feel her hair on my shoulders. I knew she was looking around as well. And suddenly out of the darkness emerged a shadow darker than dark. And I could see the outline of the sea witch, and I knew it was her. And I was so scared. And my fear must have shown because the girl began to sob, and I'm sure she didn't know who the sea witch was, but I failed in that way. I made her quite afraid. The problem is that this woman, you don't understand. She sucks everything out of you. She literally sucks out your soul. That is how she operates. So the fear of her is not just fear of death. It is fear of death, of life after death. It's terrifying. Now, I had pretty much resigned us both to that horrible fate, but suddenly out of the center of this altar rose a column of light, and this appeared. This gorgeous candle. You see, I do not know what to call this. I have heard of electricity, but it is not something we are quite familiar with in Rolandia. And it was pulsing, like so. So beautiful. And both of us immediately leaned forward toward it. We knew it was our last hope. And it felt so good to see something hopeful. And as soon as we grabbed onto it, we were gone. We were out of the cave, and we both ended up here on this beach. And she immediately ran away, and I saw her run to a woman who was calling her name, searching the beach. It must have been her mother. I was happy, but then I realized that I was here on land, and my legs don't quite work, and I do need a place to stay. So I was hoping if you could help me, now that you know my story. Would you? Thank you.